Hey guys, Brandon Lewis here with your Tennessee Conservative News Break. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm excited you're here. We're going to cover the top headlines at the state and local level. Now, national news is interesting, but you don't really have that big of an impact on it. You can't pick up the phone and call your congressman and your senator and have the same amount of impact as you can by calling your state rep or state senator. And that's why we always bring you the things that you live under first, that you have the most control over here at the Tennessee Conservative News. If you are yet to be a subscriber to our e-newsletter that comes out every day around lunchtime, go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com and subscribe there. We send out notifications that are critically important by text occasionally, but we send out that e-newsletter Monday through Friday every day. So let's get right into the stories. First story, Second Amendment sanctuary bill passes Tennessee House. The Tennessee House voted on Monday evening to make the state a Second Amendment sanctuary. The House adopted Senate Bill 1335, which passed last week in the Senate. It affirms, and this is the language, that any law, treaty, executive order, rule, or regulation of the United States government that violates the Second Amendment is unenforceable. That violation would have to be determined by either the U.S. Supreme Court. Any official that could then attempt to enforce the unconstitutional law would be subject to ouster. The bill is now headed to Governor Lee's desk to be signed. While the Senate discussion of the bill centered around whether the bill was nullification of federal law and whether it was possible, the House did not discuss nullification. On the national level, Biden promotes free community college for American dreamers. That's what we need. When we are printing money in the trillions, when people can't get jobs, when they've incentivized people to sit at home to the point that consumer goods and construction goods are going through the roof and gas is climbing, we really need to be collecting taxpayer dollars from people that are productive and giving it to folks who aren't citizens. At least that's what Biden thinks. Here's the story. Biden touted a key part of his education initiative Monday, pushing for 2 years of free community college nationwide. Who cares who pays for it? Who cares if it's actually a good use of people's time? But some critics question the long-term efficacy of this plan. Biden's community college proposal comes at a time when American Families Plan, a $1.8 trillion spending proposal that includes plans to raise taxes for individuals earning more than $1 million to pay for it. And let me just stop here. People always think that if you tax people that are wealthy, typically people that are job creators, that it has no impact on what they do. Of course it does. It causes them to hire less. It causes them to spend less. And that produces fewer jobs. That's just how the economy works. Anybody who has even an elementary understanding of economics knows that. Back to the story. One provision of this bill would allow education to benefit from, to an extent, to dreamers, which are non-citizens whose parents brought them into the U.S. illegally. Now, when these dreamers were brought into the U.S. illegally originally, it was just to stay a little while, and there would be no long-term ramifications, and they would all get sent back, and it'd be no big deal. But as you can see, illegal immigration always has a long tail, a long, expensive tail to the American citizens, and we're paying for it. We've already paid for it with the dreamers already, and now Joe Biden wants to pay a little more while he continues to allow floods of migrant children to come across the border, some of which are housed right here in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Back to the story, Biden has called on Congress to pass legal protection for the dreamers. The AFP would also allow them to receive assistance from the Pell Grant, a grant providing tuition assistance for low-income students that would increase extra funding under the AFP. This is just insanity. It's fiscally irresponsible. It's as if he's thrown our nation's sovereignty completely out of the window. If you are glad that we are covering stories like that, if you would please go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support. And when you do, we will send you these two Proud Tennessee Conservative bumper stickers, along with a directory, so that when things like the Second Amendment sanctuary bill are being discussed, you'll know exactly how to get in touch with your state rep and your state senator so that you can have an impact, so that your voice can be heard. And if you give $50 or more and support conservative journalism in Tennessee, because we've only have 2 conservative news outlets in Tennessee. 2. We are outnumbered 80-1. So if conservatives don't get off their pocketbook and really put their money where their mouth is, there may not be more organizations like this. And guess what? Your neighbor ain't going to do it. Your friend ain't going to do it. Your buddy's not going to do it. You have to do it. Back to the stories. Next story at the national level. Smugglers transporting 2,000 people every day through Texas. Every day. Texas Governor Abbott says 2,000 people are entering Texas every day in rafts, boats, and through gaps in the unfinished border wall. A particular A section along the Rio Grande River where the wall construction is already paid for and delivered materials are laying on the ground, but the Biden administration halted the completion. Abbott said known criminals are entering Texas and the U.S. illegally as the result of the Biden administration's open border crisis. We reached out to Governor Lee about illegal immigration in the migrant detention center here, and he was completely quiet on it. Completely quiet on it. So, there are two people in executive positions that are rather quiet about illegal immigration here in Tennessee right now. Back to the story. In 1 month of March alone, the Texas Department of Public Safety made 598 criminal arrests and 16,000 referrals to the U.S. Border Patrol. Many being arrested are known criminals, sex offenders, and gang members. Great. Great. We need to indiscriminately let criminals into our country. That's exactly what we need as we try to recover economically from a pandemic. Abbott said the Biden administration's border policies have created an open season for human traffickers, drug smugglers, and cartels and gangs. On the local side, Mayor Kelly updates COVID-19 executive order, still requires masks in city buildings. And this is something that has just amazed me. On Republican and the Democrat side, the studies on masking indicate that whether you wear one or whether you don't, your transmission rate's about the same. They've looked at split test studies, and in Europe, where it's not such a contentious political issue, many of them have completely gotten away from it. But here in the United States, for some reason, it's become like this cult religion, where you virtue signal by doing something that's not very helpful, which is kind of the essence of virtue signaling. And he's asking people to wear them in city buildings. And so with the expiration of the state and county pandemic restrictions, Mayor Tim Kelly is issued an updated executive order on Friday to modify the city's guidance on COVID-19 precautions and procedures. The order was updated to remove language stemming from orders by the Tennessee Governor Bill Lee and Hamilton County Mayor Jim Coppinger that are no longer in effect, while underscoring the city's rules and guidelines will remain in place. Face masks will be required in all city buildings. City senior centers shall continue to remain closed. Social distance guidelines cover outdoor events remain in effect. Again, this is just a bunch of illogical claptrap. This stuff doesn't make any sense. People do it so that they appear to be trying to be helpful, I guess. In a statement issued Friday, the mayor's office said that the city will continue to update its pandemic guidance weekly for future executive orders in line with both CDC safety measures as well as local vaccination and infection rates. That's great. That's great. We need this thing to drag on till 2045. Brandon Lewis here with the Tennessee Conservative News. We're trying to get out of this, but once the government takes power, once Democrats take power culturally, once liberals take power culturally, and even when Republicans take power, they love it. It is addictive. It makes methamphetamine look like Smarties. It really does. Power is very addicting. And many of our Republicans and Democrats have been addicted to it during this pandemic because they've never been able to exercise so much of it. So if you don't like that, and if you're glad that publications like us support freedom and that we're fighting this, please do go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com/support. Hit that support link that's in the description of this live stream. Help us out. We need your support. We cannot do it without you. Brandon Lewis here with the Tennessee Conservative News, and I will see you tomorrow. In the comments section here below, let me know where you're from. If you liked it, what you watched. I always like to know who's keeping up with us, and share our content all across the web because there are tons of conservatives that you know that aren't on our list. And if there are only 2 outlets in Tennessee, we probably need to make sure every conservative knows about them. Brandon Lewis with Tennessee Conservative News. Talk to you later.